what you can't for that. Yeah. My daughter had, it's the third time I've been exposed, never got it.
Good afternoon, and
She
welcome
what?
to the Board of Health meeting of
I know.
June 27th, 2022.
She got 5.
We've started. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly.
Button.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Board of Health meeting of June 27th, 2022. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Pursuant to Governor Baker's June 16th, 2021 signing of an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, including the extension of the March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until July 15th, 2022, this meeting of the Chatham Board of Health is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. As a reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the number 508-945-4410, conference ID 306101649#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Channel 18, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. I'll turn the meeting over to Chairman Beckley.
Thank you, Judy. It shall be the policy of this board to conduct its meetings under the open meetings law so as to encourage public participation whenever time permits and as part of agenda item discussions. We have one variance request for tonight, so let's get started with that. Oh, first of all, sorry, Judy. Judy reminded me that I need to establish that we have a quorum to proceed with the meeting. And I know we have one member, Carol Boyce, who's attending remotely. Carol, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
Very good. In addition, we have Dr. Noble Hanson, Ed Sheehan, and myself from the regular board members, so we do have a quorum for tonight. We also have 2 alternates in attendance, Dr. Dick Edwards and Carol Gordon. So let's start with the first agenda item, which is a variance hearing and approval of IA Technology for John and Catherine Bridgeton at 32 Ivy Lane, and Clark Engineering is representing the application. David Clark, are you on the call? Well, we do have a memorandum from Judy, our health agent, reviewing the essence of the application. And with that memo, Judy is recommending that we approve it. We approve the request with the, with I guess 9 conditions. Do we have any board member that would like to comment on this application?
Yes. After reviewing this, it appears this is a huge change in this house. Basically, they're keeping the exterior walls and redoing everything within the house, in addition to adding a carriage house. And they want to add a bedroom to make it 5 bedrooms on 15,000 square feet. Now, if this were a new construction, how many bedrooms would this be allowed to have?
If this was a new construction, a vacant lot, it
Yeah.
would be allowed 2 bedrooms.
2 bedrooms.
But it's since it's an existing.
Well, it's existing to some extent, but it's really almost like a tear down because it's so extensively remodeled in addition to a new building being constructed.
Yeah, but this is not unlike any other application we've
Well-
had, where we've had tear downs and rebuilds with that number.
Dr. Duncanson?
David Clark will be on momentarily. I just talked to him. He forgot about the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
So tear downs and reconstructions are allowed to have the same number of bathrooms that the original house had, even though it's a brand-new construction.
Bedrooms, yes.
All right.
Yep.
So, the other issue with this is on the first floor, the main floor, there's no, where is it? Oh, yeah, it's the first floor. There's an office with a full bathroom, including a double vanity and a huge shower, in addition to another bathroom on the first floor. And again, we've seen this over and over again. There's no conceivable reason to have a bathroom with a double vanity and a shower on the first floor unless that office is going to be used as a bedroom. And it does have a 6-foot cased opening in the plan, but unless we're going to go in and inspect this building 6 months later, there's no way to know that it's still going to have a cased opening. And to my mind, it's crazy to design a house with a double vanity and a large shower in a house that has 4 or 5 other bathrooms in order to service an office. And so it's like in our face, these plans. And then this is a massive reconstruction with a new building being built for the fifth bedroom is going into a new building, the carriage house. And so if I would vote against it. I would not approve this.
So we did discuss, when we were looking at the definition of a bedroom, whether to allow bathrooms such as this. We did not include that in the definition, so it does meet the 6-foot cased opening. There is no way for us to, control what happens after the building occupancy is issued.
To put 5 bedrooms and all these
It will be
bathrooms
deed
on
restricted.
15,000
The
square
other
feet.
question would be for David as to whether there's any coverage, whether it needs any zoning approval for the coverage, for making it so much larger on the lot. So is David on the call?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I thank Dr. Duncanson for calling me. I got sidetracked. So it does need zoning board of appeals approval. I believe it's going to zoning board next month. We've been to conservation once already, and there were no issues with the plan as far as conservation was concerned. I did catch some of the comments regarding the floor plans, and I just, quite frankly, a little disappointed in the construction, the discussion, in that you just changed your regulations, and we followed them with this application, and now the rules are changing again. So that's a little disturbing to us.
So by the book, this application does comply with our updated bedroom definitions. True?
Yes.
Okay. So with Dick's observation, as logical as it may appear to be, that does not change the fact that this design does apply, or does concur or comply with our definition, revised definition. More questions or comments from board members?
Yeah, it's Noble. Yeah, I would say that the problem of the bathrooms came up. We talked about it when we did not include that when we revised our regulations. We did the 6-foot span, which was a pretty significant change. But and I'm sort of pleased to see that this is a 6-foot span to this office. So,
Right.
and I guess that was in response to our new regulations. So, I think this falls within what our regulations are.
Right.
The overbuilding aspect is somebody else. I mean, that's planning board, I mean, that's other committees to me.
Anybody else have questions or comments from the board? Carol Boyce, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No.
Okay. We do have a listing of conditions. Before we get to that, can I get a motion from somebody to approve the application? Ed?
I find this very interesting.
Turn on your
Button.
your microphone,
Mike.
please.
I find this very interesting. We've got 2 sheets, and we got 6 bedrooms.
There's 5 bedrooms.
Ed?
Abby?
There's 5 bedrooms.
Well,
If,
there's 2 sheets. You got 1, 2, a 2, and then you go over here, 2, 3, 4, 5,
No.
6.
You have to just look at the left side, which is the new house. The
It's a-
right side is the old house.
Well, when did this,
So one of the
When did the-
bedrooms in the old house disappears.
yeah, when did this,
Ed, they're showing us existing and proposed. So the plan on the left is the main house proposed, and the plan on the right on each sheet is the main house existing. So they're showing you the changes in the house. So if you just count the bedrooms on the left side of the plan, on the 4 sheets, on the 2 sheets, I guess, there's a basement, first floor, and a second floor.
so you,
For clarity, there's, in the new house, there's 1 bedroom in the basement area. Then if you turn that page over, you've got basically the first floor. There are no bedrooms in the first floor. Then on the sheet A3, there are 3 bedrooms on the second floor. And then on sheet A4, which is on the back side, the sheets are double-sided, there is 1 bedroom in the carriage house, for a total of 5 bedrooms on the property. And I just wanted to comment on Dick's previous comment. You know, this discussion about number of bathrooms and music rooms and offices and whatnot has been going on for a decade or more. Because those specifically things, kitchens, living room, dining room, bathrooms, are not counted under Title V. And so we've had the discussion many times over the years that, you know, these houses are getting bigger and bigger in terms of square footage and number of bedrooms. But remember, the Board of Health only regulates based on the number of bedrooms. It's zoning that determines the square footage and those kinds of things, not through the Board of Health regulations. So I just wanted you to know that's not a new discussion. You know, that's not to say that this board, if you wanted to, couldn't, you know, take a look at your regulations and maybe make some changes to include number of bathrooms in some fashion. I'm not aware of any boards in the Commonwealth that have gone that direction, but, you know, it is somewhere out there because, you know, it's always been, the count's always been based on bedrooms because it's the number of people that are living in the house or sleeping in the bedrooms that generate the wastewater. You know, and so that's what it's always been, 2 people per bedroom per day, and that's been the standard for as long as I've been dealing with it in Massachusetts. So anyway, just wanted to comment on that.
Thank you. All right.
Okay. Oh, excuse me, I have something. I was just wondering, do you think there will be a time when maybe we start addressing the bathrooms and the size of the bathrooms compared how they reflect onto like family rooms and music rooms and things like this? Is that something that the board might be interested in doing down the road a little bit? Or, I mean, it just seems like we're getting a lot of full baths. I mean, even here on in the family room, it's a full bath with shower, tub, and everything else off the family room. And, you know, like I said, with the double sinks and things like this, I mean, is that really necessary? And is that just their way of getting another bedroom? So is that something that perhaps we may want to look at and how it reflects on the accessory rooms?
Right. Well, the process that we went through a few months ago, we sort of took a look at that.
The regulations just went into effect June 2nd, so, I mean, we did talk about it. We just didn't go that route. It's certainly something we can look at again, but it would mean, you know, having more hearings and then changing the regs again, so.
Thank you.
David Clark here. I just want to remind the board that Title V has a provision that when the total number of rooms in a dwelling exceed, I think it's 8, that you take the total number of rooms and divide by 2 and round down, and that's presumed to be the number of bedrooms. Title V does that because they presume there's a diminishing scale as to the size of the house and the wastewater flow. Because Title V presumes that there's 2 individuals per bedroom. So a 12-bedroom house, in theory, doesn't produce wastewater from 24 people. And so you get a closer alignment of 110 gallons per bedroom if it was a 2-bedroom house than you do if it was a 6, 7, or 8-bedroom house, just to put that out there.
And we did discuss that as part of our discussion as well, but we didn't quite go there.
Okay.
Right, and this house would have 11 rooms.
Would have 11 rooms, which would make it a 6-bedroom house
Yep.
under that.
All right, further comments, questions by board members? We do have a recommendation from Judy that we approve this with conditions. Can I get a motion to approve?
It's Noble. I'll make a motion to approve the variance for the 5 bedrooms for 32 Ivy Lane with the IA technology, and Judy would read the conditions for us.
Can I get a second first?
We have a hand up as well.
Can I get a second? I'll offer the second. Now, before we read the conditions, did we have comments from the public? Anybody from the public wish to comment on this at this time? If
Yes,
not-
Elaine Gibb.
Yes, okay, Elaine.
Yes, I would like you to do what Carol Gordon has suggested and readdress the specifics about the number of bedrooms versus bathrooms. We are so concerned about our water usage, and people complain that bigger houses are being put up. And I know this is going to the ZBA, but when it's basically a tear down, and it would normally 15,000 square feet would only allow 2 bedrooms, and certainly a guest house, if you want to consider the ancillary building with a bedroom, it's probably a guest house. You normally need to be in an R20, and you need to have an additional half acre of upland. The water usage on a potential, I mean, I think we all agree when your bathrooms are very expensive and you're putting in full bathrooms, there is an expectation that those are going to be used as bedrooms, and you can fit 25 people in there. And if we're concerned about our water consumption, I think the Board of Health can play a role in redefining how many bathrooms should be in a house on a lot of that size. if it's within your purview to do so. Because people keep talking about it, but no committee or commission is taking action on it. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have a motion, we have a second, and we need to have the conditions that would accompany this approval read into the record. Judy?
The applicant should restrict the property to a maximum of 5 bedrooms and record this restriction on the deed at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. The applicant shall submit a copy of the executed deed restriction. The applicant shall sign a covenant with the board agreeing to comply at such time as the town of Chatham through the Board of Health and/or Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners directs the connection of this property to the municipal sewer when it becomes available. This covenant and 5-bedroom deed restriction shall be recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds, and a copy shall be submitted to the Board of Health. Throughout the life, the system shall be under an operation and maintenance agreement. The operation and maintenance agreement shall be for at least 1 year and may be with any mass certified operator of the appropriate grade that has received training by the company on the operation of the system. Effluent from the system shall be monitored at least twice per year for the first 2 years, preferably May and October. The effluent shall be field tested in accordance with Mass DEP standard conditions for secondary treatment units certified for general use, revised March 20th, 2015. In addition, a lab test of the effluent for total nitrogen to meet the performance standard of 19 milligrams per liter shall be collected and analyzed by a certified lab. Water meter readings are to be provided with the semi-annual report. If any of the field tests or lab tests fail, follow-up tests shall be conducted by a certified lab and evaluation made by the operator within 30 days. After the required 2 years testing, application can be made to the board or its agent for review and possible modification of the monitoring requirements. The applicant agrees to apply a minimum of 6 inches of compacted topsoil to all disturbed areas of the property. The engineer shall submit an engineered as-built plan, including as-built elevations with a written certification that the system has been installed in accordance with the approved plan. No alteration to the floor plan of the dwelling or the engineer's site plan will be allowed without further review by the board or its agent. This variance would be granted pursuant to the State Environmental Code, Title V, and the Town of Chatham Subsurface Sewage Regulation, and is valid for 1 year from the date of Board of Health approval. A permit must be issued and work commenced during that 1-year period, or the variance shall expire.
Okay, thank you, Judy. So we have a motion, we have a second. The conditions have been read. I'd like to call the question at this time. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Ed, how do you vote? Ed, how do you
No.
vote?
No.
No. Carol?
You should do a roll call vote.
Okay, I heard Carol say aye, and I vote aye as well, so the motion carries. All right, before we go on to item 2, I'd like to request that we address item 6 on the agenda first, so we have an assurance of getting that done tonight, because I may have to leave early, which is, item 6 is a Board of Health reorganization. We've kind of discussed this informally in the past, and I think it's time for us to reorganize, just to keep the board structure fresh and have some ideas or planning for the future. And I've spoken with Dr. Hanson about his willingness to take over as the chairman, and he's agreed to do that. And I've also reached out to Carol Boyce to see if she'd be willing to agree to step into the vice chair role, and she's agreed to do that. So that is what I'm proposing, that we vote to reorganize our board effective for the next meeting to reflect Dr. Hanson as the chair and Carol Boyce as the vice chair. Discussion. Anybody wants to weigh in?
Will you have a place on the board?
Yes.
Oh, good, okay.
I was just renewed for another 3 years as a board member, so I have no intention of going anywhere. I would just step down from the two titled positions.
Yeah, I would just say that, I mean, John has done a great job for a number of years as the chairman of the Board of Health and kind of navigated us through COVID and all that, and I know he'd like to step down, but he has agreed to remain on the board, which is good for us. So, you know, I wasn't pushing for it myself personally, but I accepted it when John made the suggestion to me. And I'm very glad to hear that Carol Boyce is going to be the vice chair.
Okay.
Did you take a vote?
We need to have a motion.
Motion and a vote.
Okay, I will make the motion that we reorganize the board to reflect a new chair and a new vice chair, with Dr. Hanson becoming the new chairman and Carol Boyce becoming the new vice chair, effective at the next meeting. That's the motion. Can I get a second?
This is Noble, I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Ed? Are you with it? I mean, are you with the motion? Aye.
Yes.
Carol Boyce, you aye?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the reorganization has been approved. Okay, thank you for that, everyone. Let's go to item 2, which an update and a discussion regarding the John McGrath property at 32 Mill Hill Road. I'd like to speak on that tonight because this is an issue that I think about how we're navigating through the challenges of how to address this property. And I had an occasion recently to have an old friend come up and visit me. This is kind of a personal story. And he's a retired environmental scientist. He actually was a director of a whole division with the New Jersey DEP. And he used to have, you know, hazardous waste site remediation under him. So he was very in tune with what we're wrestling with. So I brought him by the property, and in a nutshell, he said, in his judgment, that there's no way to assess what's on this property without doing soil testing, and there's no real way to do soil testing until you clear out a lot of the materials that are on the property. So he went online and he was looking at the DEP, and in Massachusetts, it's very similar to the DEP and how it's organized in New Jersey. And it was his recommendation that we, as a board, reach out to the DEP in a formal way, the Mass DEP, and ask for some type of site assessment or site review by somebody from their Southeast Region office to see what their take is on this challenging site. It made sense to me, so I wanted to bring it to the full board. Not that I want to abandon our current efforts, but I just think maybe it's useful, it would be useful for us to get another take from a state agency that would clearly have more expertise than we do as pretty much a lay board. And they'd also have more resources, technical resources, financial resources that they might bring to bear if they decided that it was an issue that was important to them. So I'd like to put that out there tonight just as an idea and see what other board members think and see what Dr. Duncanson thinks. But I think it could be a good avenue for us to help solve this challenge that we have with how do we deal with this? Dick?
Well, you know, I think that would be fine, but I'm afraid that if they inspected the property and found that there was no soil pollution, no toxins, things of that sort, that still doesn't resolve the problem that the property is a nuisance, because the appearance of the property degrades the value of the adjacent properties. So, yeah, I mean, if you found that there was PFAS, or there was oil, or there was, insecticides or something in the soil that was a problem, that would be easy. But it doesn't resolve the underlying problem that the neighbors are complaining that nobody wants to rent their house because the place is a catastrophe in terms of its appearance. And so you could have 6,000 refrigerators on the property and not have any soil contamination. So I don't know how it would help unless they found something totally unexpected there, which is,
It may not need to be an either-or situation, Dick. I mean, if the board decided to reach out or request Dr. Duncanson or Judy to reach out, it wouldn't necessarily say we weren't able to proceed with our current line of strategy.
when I've looked at the laws, it looks like there's a distinction between a public nuisance and a private nuisance. And a public nuisance would be something that is so, unsightly or so dangerous that the general public is put at risk, like all the stuff in the streets, so that creates a traffic hazard. A private nuisance that I've seen and defined is something that degrades the enjoyment or the value of properties nearby, the next door neighbor, the person across the street, whatever. And in some places, the private nuisances are resolved by the neighbors filing lawsuits, and the town has nothing to do with it. In other places, apparently, there are ordinances in towns that address private nuisances, and I don't know what the case is in Chatham. So clearly, it was our purview if all this stuff is piled up on the street and the trucks have to swerve around it and it puts people in danger, that's a public nuisance. If he's got all this trash on his property and his next door neighbor can't rent his house because of that, and that's a private nuisance, I don't know whether that is our responsibility or not.
Well, I think it's a nice idea. It's almost like getting a second opinion. I feel that just looking at it, and we know that there has to be environmental violations, health violations, and our watershed is right there. And so something is going on. And I agree that soil testing after it's cleaned up would be amazing and certainly should be done. But I don't want us to get off onto a tangent with this before we take care of the most pressing project on there right now, which is finishing the guardrail, getting the Winnebago removed, getting the vehicle, the little dumpster or whatever, with the trash in it, and now there's a boat ramp there. And I think that, it's almost like it has come to a standstill, and it's really time that, that we get that Winnebago taken care of. And it seems that if we call one town department, they refer to another and the other, and it's just back and forth. And I think people really want to see this cleaned up so that you can finish the guardrail and get the rest of the no parking signs up. That's.
Yeah, I just would say, I agree with Carol that we should finish up the first phase, get that finished, and then move on to the second phase and deal with that. And I think John's suggestion about the state, to me, if it's additional information or testing or that would help us make our decision, I would be fine with that. I'd be leery of getting the state involved where we turn over the whole project to the state and then we sort of lose control of what's going to happen or not going to happen. As Carol said, that would kind of concern me. But the question is, can they come in and help, but we're not obligated to follow all their rules, which we don't even know what they are right now. But I would also agree, finish up the first stage, and then have a discussion about how we're going to start dealing with the second phase, gathering information.
Thank
But
you.
I would be interested in what Bob says about the state involvement, because he may have some experience there.
I also want to know about the Winnebago.
Okay, let me start with the Winnebago, because that's been the topic of interest for a couple of weeks now. As of this morning, I believe we have a solution to the Winnebago. And just so the board understands what's transpired here, unregistered, uninsured vehicles parked in the public way are basically the jurisdiction of the police department. And they can have said vehicles towed, which they routinely do. In this case, because of the condition of the Winnebago and the individual involved, none of the companies that the police department usually deals with to tow vehicles and then store them, in impound, if you will, were willing to do so without being paid upfront by the town. So, they kind of knew that if they got this thing towed into their yard, they were then stuck with it and they were going to have to pay to dispose of it, and they didn't want, the tow companies legitimately, I think, didn't want to get stuck with that bill. And so we have been, when I say we, myself, the town manager's office, the police department, we have been looking into ways that that upfront cost could be managed, if you will. We were not able to do it under the funding source that we had used to clean up the right-of-way, but I can tell you that as of this morning, the deputy chief had identified a funding source that looks like it can be used for that. So at this point, hopefully shortly, we will see the Winnebago out of there. The town will basically upfront the cost for its removal and storage. And then after, and I forget, I don't know if it's 30 days or some time period that the company has to store it and attempt to notify the owner, and then they have an opportunity to reclaim it and pay the storage fees and the towing fees and all that kind of stuff. If that doesn't transpire and the towing company then wants to junk it and they have to pay somebody to do that, it won't be coming out of their dime. It'll be coming out of the town's, and then we would turn around. And as I understand it, we would add that to the bill that'll be placed, the lien that will be placed on the property.
Right.
So I think we have finally solved that nut. It took
Okay.
longer than I think any of us thought, but I don't think any of us at the beginning ever thought the tow companies would basically say, we don't want to touch it because
Okay.
we don't want to get stuck with it, if you will. Yeah.
One more thing. What about the trailer trash there on the boat ramp? So, because I don't think you can complete the guardrail if that trailer trash is there. And the
Yeah,
boat ramp is way
that would
down.
have to be removed as well. And again, that's a little bit different because as I understand it, and I haven't been down there so far this week, but in other times that trailer was registered and insured. But we did leave a gap in the guardrail where the existing driveway is, that trailer could be placed out of the town road right away. So I think those things would all happen.
Okay,
at
and
the same
the
time.
boat ramp that's there,
When you say
front
boat
of-
ramp, I think you mean trailer, boat trailer?
no, maybe it's a boat trailer, right, yes, not
Yeah.
a boat ramp, sorry.
You were saying boat ramp, and I
Thank
was
you,
like-
yeah. Something else that's been added.
Same
No,
thing. I mean,
the boat
as
trailer.
long as it's legally registered and all, and he can find a spot on his property to move it to,
But he hasn't done that because it's by the no parking signs.
yeah. Well, as I say, once the no parking signs are there, if it's there, then it's
They
a
are.
police matter.
I know, and
So-
I don't know if they've been, the no parking signs are there.
Yeah.
And they've been up for now a while, and I don't know if they're being really enforced,
Yep.
so.
Well,
But
I
it-
can't speak for the police department,
Right.
but I think they've been kind of waiting for the whole guardrail and Winnebago
Probably.
thing to be resolved.
Well, it'll be good to hear, to
Yeah.
see that Winnebago and the other,
Yep.
so thank you.
I mean, progress is being made. It is slower than I think any of us would like to see, but
slow.
It's
Bob,
an
I had a
interesting
question. So,
situation.
Is the guardrail completed, or will more go up with
more of the
time?
guardrail will go up, so basically the area where the Winnebago is now, that
But-
is also supposed to have guardrail.
Right away?
Yeah.
And then the no parking signs would continue down there as well?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep.
And then the question of who enforces the no parking, you said it was
That would
police?
be the police department.
Does that include if somebody dumps a refrigerator or a junk car comes back there, that kind of thing? Is that in a no parking zone, is that also a police?
Yeah, because
Enforcement?
technically it's in the road layout, which has been clearly marked and whatnot.
But it would be nice to have them sort of acknowledge it, I guess.
Specifically, the area was not signed no dumping. It was signed as no parking.
Right. So the guardrail will go all the way across
Basically
that,
continue up to the property line.
so that right of way will have a guardrail in front of it?
Yes.
What somebody was calling a, okay. All right, well,
Yep.
that's good.
All right?
Do you think it's necessary to get a no dumping sign too? I mean, what do you think? I mean, will the police really come out and take whatever's there just in case?
I think that's a discussion to be had with the police department. I think that gets a little trickier, only from the perspective that, and we've talked about this before, it potentially raises a whole host of issues around town. But, let's take one step at a time and get
Okay.
this done and complete and see what happens.
Okay, thanks.
So, but, go ahead, Rick.
And do we have a plan or an idea about the material that's on his property? Whether that's what our role is in that, or are we going to go and do an inspection? What's the role
As
of
the
the board?
board had discussed previously, once kind of phase one was complete, which was clearing up the road right of way and getting the guardrail up and everything else, then the board would revisit whether or not you wanted to go further on the property, which would require a site inspection by the board. We'd have to give Mr. McGrath notice that the board wanted to come on the property to do a site inspection. Then you would be able to do your site inspection and then make a determination as to whether or not the conditions on the property rose to the level that you feel action needs to be taken. Mr. McGrath would be notified of that, and basically he'd be given an opportunity to clean it up, 14 days, 30 days, whatever. And if he didn't, then the board could go ahead and bring in a third party to clean it up. That was the reason for getting the funding at town meeting for your nuisance remediation fund. At which point then a further lien would be placed on the property to recoup whatever that cost turns out to be. So that would be the next step. That's what this board had discussed previously, and had, you'd heard that from town council as well, that kind of that stepwise progression.
Carol Boyce, do you have your hand up? I wasn't sure. I couldn't see.
She does, but she's still muted.
Carol? We can't hear you. All right.
And Elaine Gibbs also has her hand up.
Elaine?
Yes, just for a point of clarification, when Carol Gordon asked if the sign should say no dumping, I don't think I understood the explanation that would cause problems around town. What does that mean? I guess I didn't understand why no dumping signs wouldn't be put around town where people are dumping where they're not supposed to.
Because my understanding was just because it was in the road right of way, we could certainly ask the police department to come in and clarify, no dumping versus no parking.
Yeah, because I think there are other areas in town where people are leaving stuff that are probably considered in the right of way. And if that sign is there, then we wouldn't get into these situations where people are doing it and then have to reinvent the wheel. So I think it's worth considering. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we leave the 32 Mill Hill Road agenda item, I'd like to ask what board members think about the idea of requesting the Mass DEP to come out and give us an assessment of what they think about that property. and whether we'd like to authorize Dr. Duncanson or Judy to reach out.
I would ask Bob, do you have experience with the state coming in and getting involved in something like that?
Not particularly in something like this. I do in terms of like a hazardous waste site, those kinds of things. This is a little bit different. But we could certainly, and I had a conversation with the chairman about this a week ago. We could certainly reach out to the state. We do have contacts at the state that we could reach out and see if it's something they would get involved in, or at least come out and do a site visit and provide some potential input. I happen to know the current director of the Southeast region because he used to be part of the hazardous waste program years ago, and he's now the director. So we could certainly reach out and have a conversation with them, see if it is something, that they get involved in and to what extent they get involved.
Yeah, that's, I would say that I would need more information first about, because I would be reluctant to get them involved and then have them take over the whole thing, and all of a sudden we are playing by a completely separate set of rules. But getting information verbally from somebody, that would be great, that you would bring back to us before we actually take a vote on it, would be my opinion.
No, I'm not asking that we vote on anything other than to reach out and ask Dr. Duncanson to see if they would be willing to come out and give us their kind of field assessment of what we're dealing with.
And what obligation that might entail on us.
Sure. We're okay on that then? That's the way we're going to go? Okay. Item 3 on the agenda, Chatham Airport Fishermen Cleanup Area. I know this was a question the board asked a couple of weeks ago. I walked the property myself recently, and I guess it's better than it was, but it's not really cleared up yet or cleaned up yet.
Yeah, the airport commission set a June 30th deadline for the fishermen to remove all of their gear, if you will, that they were not, gonna keep from the site. So we have a few days left. I do know the chairman of the airport commission has been working with a couple of the fishermen, primarily the lobster guys who have the large number of pots there, to kind of work around their time of year and whatnot when they put things in the water and then haul them out. And then once June 30th comes around and we see what is left that nobody has claimed or hasn't made some other arrangement with the airport commission to keep it there temporarily for some period of time or whatever, then we would determine, okay, what's left and what's the best way to get it out of there, in terms of the town coming in to clean it up. And in the past, we've had DPW bring over a number of dumpsters to the site, and they've been filled up with wood debris or metal debris and, taken over to the transfer station. In the past, we've used AmeriCorps to help out with that because, it's labor intensive, if you will. That probably isn't an option now just because it's summertime and AmeriCorps doesn't work in the summer. But yeah, once June 30th kind of comes around and everybody kind of gets a sense of exactly what's left there and what needs to be done with it, and whether they've made any other arrangements to keep it there for a slightly longer period or whatnot. I just received last week the engineering proposal to do the engineering for the relocated site, which is up off Middle Road, basically between Middle Road and the capped landfill and the wastewater treatment plant. Up in that area, we've identified a spot there the selectmen have signed off on. Keeps it up by the road so we don't have the logistic difficulties of getting down into the hollow that was originally being looked at. The size of that area has shrunk dramatically, just because the thought seems to be that right now we only have 2 or 3 fishermen, primarily the lobstermen, that have the large number of pots that really need space to store them in. So, like I say, I just got that proposal last week. The engineers have indicated the engineering and the permitting could be done by the end of summer, which would, get the area hopefully in shape by the fall, You know, like everything else right now, contractors are few and far between. Everybody's so busy. So we don't have a definitive timeline yet to get that going, but it's in the works.
Okay, I have a question. Okay, I haven't been over to the area lately, but there was going to be a gate installed. Is that installed?
The gate was installed
Okay.
end of April.
So,
So,
I
yeah,
haven't been there for a
it's
while.
been up, yeah.
And then what about where the, not the fisherman's gear, but there was like another middle area that had a lot of different things dumped in it, like, I don't know, like washer, things like
There was
that.
some appliances there.
Appliance,
yeah.
exactly.
And some very large dragging sea.
Right, so it's like, so has that been removed?
No, I don't think anything has been removed unless the fishermen have taken it out themselves, so.
Okay, wasn't that to
That's
be-
all part of the fisherman's storage area, even though it may be a washer or dryer, it's still the
Right.
same site.
But do you
But that
think
is some of the illegal dumping that took place, over the last couple of years. It needs to be removed when the site is
Are the
cleaned up.
fishermen expected to remove that?
It would depend if it's in an area that's identifiable. I mean, we know who rents what particular areas. I suspect that if the fisherman said, I didn't put that there, it's not mine, they were just
Right.
gonna leave it come June 30th and,
Yep.
it'll be part of the overall cleanup.
Okay, so if it's still there June 30th, the town will go in and clean it up?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you.
So some of those dredges were big, heavy, 20-ton
Yep.
metal and giant diesel engines and things. It's going to be expensive to get out of there. So that the town would have to cover the cost
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
And we'll run it, we'll
Or
probably
or
have
try to
another
recoup it if
similar
we can
problem.
identify whose area it's in, but,
Yeah.
some of these fishermen may be gone in terms of, they're out of the business or whatever, so, yeah.
So if a fisherman wants to go in and remove stuff now, he has a combination for the gate or a key
It's
to the
open.
gate?
The gate is open
The
right
gate
now.
has
Oh,
not.
the gate's there, but it's
To
not
my
closed.
understanding, the gate has been installed, but the airport commission has not locked it to date.
Okay.
Because they're working with the fishermen, getting stuff out and whatnot.
So,
The ultimate plan is to put the balloon launching site in there?
There has been discussion, and there's going to be discussion tomorrow at the select board meeting, that is a potential location to relocate the weather service balloon launching facility to, yeah.
one more question, please. What department would that fall under to finish cleaning up that area?
It's a joint effort between us and DPW and transfer station and,
Okay,
yeah, I mean, it's not one particular
okay.
department, given the
The
nature of
village,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Okay?
Let's move to item 4, which is an update from Dr. Duncanson on the Chatham water quality.
Good news. It's been rainy. Water use in town is down primarily because of the weather conditions and also because of the water restrictions. And I'm sure the board's familiar because I sent it out to everybody last week that the select board did revise or update the water conservation measures. You can now water with irrigation systems Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. And I forget right off the top of my head the hours, but there's 2 times during the day when you could do that. And you can hand water, whenever using appropriate common sense, I'll say, Well number 5, the PFAS treatment unit is up and running.
Beautiful.
It has not yet been turned on into the distribution system. They have been running it to waste the last 2 weeks, and if you've driven out by Training
Oh,
Field Road, you
that's
probably
where I
saw the
see-
hydrant
Okay.
shooting water off into the woods. And you can't imagine the number of calls I got. What are you doing when you're telling everybody else to save water, and here you are just pumping it and
Almost should
shooting
have put
it
a
off into the
sign
woods?
there, for Pete's sakes.
Well, that was actually the pilot study for the new water treatment plant design. They had the treatment unit on well number 5, and they were running it at various levels to determine how, effective it is at various levels at removing the PFAS, and that's all part of the design of the new treatment facility. They just finished that pilot study last Friday. It was a 2-week study. They have gotten permission from the Board of Selectmen to put well number 5 into the distribution system. So the word I got right at the very beginning of this meeting was they anticipate doing that tomorrow. They haven't needed to do it up till now because water usage and need was down. But now we're getting into the hotter, drier months. The number of people in Chatham is up. So they suspect they will have to turn well on into the distribution system tomorrow. It has been tested regularly since the unit went online, and the results so far for PFAS after the treatment unit have been non-detect.
Beautiful.
So the treatment unit is doing exactly what's anticipated. And then well number 8 is still shut off. That will remain shut off, only to be used in extreme emergencies, because it is not connected to the treatment unit. Only well 5 is. Yes.
I was amazed to read recently.
But
I was amazed recently to read that some federal agency has now stated that the acceptable level of PFAS is 0. And anything above 0 is a health problem, and water should not be consumed if any level of these agents can be detected in the water. How can we deal with something like that when we meet the federal the old federal standard, we meet the Massachusetts standard, but we don't come anywhere near 0.
Well, we do. With the new treatment unit,
yeah.
we're at non-detect.
Yeah.
EPA has proposed, the federal EPA has proposed new standards for PFAS. They are only proposed at this point. They have not been adopted into regulation yet. They have to go through an entire rulemaking process. Will probably take about a year, if not longer. But yes, they have lowered the potential limits in drinking water dramatically from what it has been in the recent past, which used to be 70 parts per trillion as a health advisory, and they're now going significantly lower than that. So obviously it's causing I'm not sure concern is the right word, but a lot of angst, if you will, in the water purveyor industry, as to how they're going to meet this. We've only detected it in 2 of our wells so far. The others have all been non-detect, so hopefully things stay that way. And we don't have more of an issue than we do now. But we know that the carbon filtration is very effective at removing PFAS, so, yeah. But it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out over the next year or so with the change. Yeah. All right.
all right, let's go to item 5 on the agenda, which is COVID-19. Dr. Bob?
So just quickly, I will share, and I sent these out yesterday, or over the weekend, I guess it was, Sunday. Let me share my screen here real quick. If I can get it to share. There we go. So just quickly, our weekly numbers, we're not down to 0 again. We were several months ago. We had a couple of weeks with 0. These are weekly counts. And you can see we're kind of hovering around that 10 to 15 range of new cases every week. Keep in mind, as I have been saying, these are the cases reported to the state. This does not include all the home tests that people may be undertaking. So in all likelihood, the number of actual cases is higher. We do have 2 new Omicron variants, B4 and B5, that are out there that, CDC is keeping a close eye on right now. And, those are right now becoming the prevalent variants throughout the United States. In terms of our percent positivity, it's trending back up again. We are not seeing the summer peaks that we've seen in 2020 and 2021. We're still above that 5% threshold, which indicate community transmission. However, CDC has put Barnstable County into their low category. Good. And that's based not only on transmission rates, but also hospitalizations. So It's a broader number. And that's why they've changed it from low down to from high to low, which is good. Average daily incident rate, same kind of thing. We're still kind of bouncing around that 20 to 25 range, which mirrors the percent positivity. And then in terms of hospitalizations on Cape Cod, they're down. They're not down to zero, but they are down. So that's good news compared to, where we were, say, 4 or 5 weeks ago when things were trending upward.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah, it's still here. People that are, especially if you have underlying medical conditions or whatever, you need to take the appropriate precautions and whatnot, and, not just assume that it's not anywhere and you don't have to worry about it anymore. So with that, that's all I've got.
Thank you. Dick?
Have you had any monkeypox on Cape Cod?
None that I'm aware of. I think we're up to 13 or 14 cases in Massachusetts now, but I'm not aware of any cases on the Cape.
And this is primarily in gay men? This is primarily in gay men?
The initial cases all seem to be related to some events that took place in that population. However, recently the number of cases has expanded more into the general population.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're doing well. We have minutes for June 6th that we all received in our packet.
Yep.
Can I ask for anybody to speak up if they have any edits, or corrections, or clarifications?
Recommended.
Okay, so is that a motion to accept, Ed? That's a motion to
Yes.
accept. Can I get a second?
Second, Noble?
Okay, all in favor of accepting the minutes of June 6th, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Thank you, Carol. Okay, so that's it for our regular business tonight. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second, Noble?
All in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Carol. All right, thank you, everyone, for coming, and I will be missing the first meeting in July. So